Hello and welcome to another fantasy world building video. And today I want to take a closer look at how one of the most beloved and common character and class archetypes in any fantasy game or story, namely the thief, would actually work in an actual realistic setting. And the first thing that would be different about thieves is their name. I don't care how bad of a reputation they got for their skills, but no profession would label itself with the very term for a crime that get your hands or head chopped off if you get caught, all depending on what the thief had stolen and from whom. Especially not in medieval times, where every profession, not just general professions like smiths or construction workers, but niche things like candle makers, would organize in their very own guild to get their very own voices heard and have their specific problems addressed. Especially not in medieval times, where courts were less about evidence and truth-finding and more about reputation and how many people you could point towards that stand on your own side and would vouch for you. So it would be exceedingly dangerous to call yourself a thief in this environment. And thief guilds are a thing in most stories or video games, so the body that could exert political pressure for a proper name to be established is already there, in most cases. Besides, there's a reason why the word psychotherapist is just one word and not three, why we call the guys who go after the grapes vincers and not grapists, why we call someone a child stylist, despite their obviously being tasked with grooming it, why we call the guy that fathered more than 24 children with 24 different wives and girlfriends from 24 different species and never paid child support for any of them, not an irresponsible degenerate deviant, but a bard. Reputation and first impression matters, especially in medieval times, so no thief would shame themselves by actually calling themselves a thief. They might call themselves an acquirer, a freebooter, or perhaps a sanctioned repossessor that acts in the name of king, court and country, or something else entirely. But just like we call soldiers soldiers and not killers, we would know thieves by a very different name. And besides, any of their skill sets would also closely intermingle with that of an assassin, which, not entirely coincidental, is also just a single word and not three, simply because these skills to get close to someone and then take possession of an important pouch or item without the victim knowing what's going on until it is far too late. And the skill set that would be required to slip someone a deadly poison that perhaps works only via skin contact would overlap greatly. And since thieves are oftentimes depicted as fighting with knives or other close quarter combat weapons and not long swords or great swords that are hard to hide and might hit the ceiling of caves, of cellars, of corridors if they don't get blocked first by pillars or walls, this intermixing between thieves and assassins would be pronounced to the point that likely both are just one single archetype, one single profession, one single class of people with different specializations and subcategories. And again, leaders, generals and rulers actually employed people like this in our own historic times. For example, the ninjas of Japan's very own history are such a case of realistic thieves, since they were an intelligence service, an order of assassins, a thief guild, and infiltrators, all in one, because the skill set for all of these activities have a great overlap, and all need a certain amount of discretion. And just as it would be dishonorable for a samurai to employ the service of a ninja, it would be dishonorable for a lord or lady to employ the local thief, or rather acquirer guild, in order to mix some laxative in the rival lady's drink. So my point being that realistic thieves would be more like the ninjas of Japan. And we can see this overlap in many stories as well. Take Konosuba for example, where Chris, Kazuma and Darkness infiltrate the castle of a demon lord. The two thieves, that being Kazuma and Chris, I know Kazuma's an adventurer, not a thief, but he learned many thief skills, acted very much like the ninjas from Japan's very own medieval period, scaling the walls of a castle, avoiding the guards, and reaching the counter unseen. They weren't just two people who steal stuff from a crowd. And thieves would also be very much their own separate force in any adventurer guild worth their salt, since the skill set to scout and map and infiltrate an area would be very different from actually ridding the areas of goblins, direwolves, giant snakes, wyverns, or irresponsible, degenerate deviants. So thieves would act as the scout force of an adventurer guild. Of course, they would not be called thieves, but explorers and cartographers, or something else like that. And they would be the ones that go to unknown areas and clear the fog of war before the main forces sent in heavy armor, equipped with heavy weapons and heavy gear to deal with any of these dangers that were discovered. Of course, the scout forces would also work, guide and cooperate with the melee fighters, the archers, the knights and crossbowmen, and they would aid another. If things go south, the explorers, the adventurers, the thieves would simply retreat and hide behind the Pavese, the great shield of a crossbowman, or the bulk of a barbarian, or the massive ego of a bard, while he smacks whoever calls him an irresponsible degenerate deviant with his electric guitar. And vice versa. The explorers would of course detect and point the actual fighting force towards any of the dangers that might lay in ambush or something else like this. And as for the equipment, thieves would not just have one standard look, meaning short hair, hot pants, and something that shows off their belly. Thieves are in fact allowed to look different than Riku from Final Fantasy X. In order to enhance the cloak of night, thieves would wear dark bluish colors to better blend in, and to mask their identity and hide it, or the attire of a farmhand or day laborer, including roughed hands, to show off evidence of physical labor, if they need to blend in with the people of the country or construction site, or they would take the armor of a captured guardsman to infiltrate an important building, to then slip deeper into the building amidst all of the chaos the bard will cause by deliberately infiltrating the bedroom of the mayor's wife, daughter, sister and sister-in-law in just one single night, only to be accidentally caught red-handed in more than just one way. And while the mayor's guards are busy avenging his wedding night and the bard causes yet another loud commotion, the way to the secret document are free in the major's office, since everybody else will now be gone, and you are stationed to stand guard. And instead of stealing the scroll or paper the intel is written on, the thief will simply employ his ability to read and write in order to acquire the intel without giving the mayor any reason to suspect that his greatest political rival has just learned an embarrassing secret or learned about a secret scheme, since the original letter will still be there. And reading and writing, alongside the education in infiltration, etiquette, assassination, and blending into a foreign society, of learning foreign languages, things like cartography, or even just identifying and scouting the wildlife of an unexplored land, would also be a very, very valuable skill set to have. That would have taken the thief a long time to acquire it, or whoever is in charge of training them would have taken their sweet time to actually hammer in all of this knowledge. So the thieves in reality would not be named thieves, and they would be much more than mere purse snatchers. They would be special forces, and as such, they would be way more valuable than the average archer or pikeman to a lord, or to the adventurer guild, since this kind of skill set isn't cheap to train and build up. And with that said, now it's your turn. What do you think about how realistic thieves would actually work, act and be perceived? Let me know it down in the comment section. And while you type, I say thank you very much for watching and have a nice day.